Hello. Super excited to be here with you all today, where I'm going to be sharing about what it's like when you're going through a little bit of a down spell or just facing some different challenges in your business and how it's actually really like a breakup. And I'm going to share with you 5 steps so that you don't get sucked down into spiraling into negativity and instead use it to propel you forward and to make even more sales and create more freedom, of course, because we don't want to just make sales. We want to create the life that you truly desire. So if you are around, say hello. And of course, I always am curious if you have questions as we go. And if you are on the replay, I always want to hear your thoughts as well. So this is for you if you are an online entrepreneur, a coach, a service provider, and doesn't matter what level you are at. There will be times, and I'm sure you've experienced those times, where it just feels like door after door gets closed and you're still doing all the things and it feels more exhausting because when that's happening, it seems like you are doing more work. It might not be that you're doing more work, but it feels like you're doing more work when you feel like things aren't flowing, when doors are closing and you're getting a lot of no's on your sales calls, or you're just getting not a lot of engagement, you're not getting people reaching out to you, whatever it looks like, and you're still doing the same activities, or even it might feel like you're doing even more of the activities and not getting that return on that energy that you're putting out there. So when that's happening, of course, it's natural to be frustrated and just kind of feel a little bit discouraged. And what I want to share with you is how we can relate this to relationships, because that's my sweet spot, is helping you see the connection between relationships and business, because they are intricately connected. Because honestly, y'all, if you don't know this, you need to know this. Sales is all about psychology, about human behavior. And I have a bachelor's in psychology and master's in communication. So I combine these two worlds because these two worlds are intricately connected, because psychology is super connected to communication. You know, how we speak, what we choose to say, how nonverbal communication is all connected back to human behavior, how your brain is wired, and tracing that back to where did that come from? Like, what was that imprinting on you from childhood that shaped your experience, that led you to have a certain perspective, which I'm going to share with you sometimes leads you down the path of struggle, which is not what we want. Cool. So I'm going to start here with the relationship aspect to show you, kind of the pattern that most people go to. I would say, 99% of people go through this pattern when they're going through a breakup, and then show you how that's, of course, very, very similar to what we do when we're facing a new challenge in our business. And it could be a new challenge that you want to grow to the next level. And of course, that's going to bring up all kinds of gremlins. So I'm going to share 5 steps of what to do instead of the normal, which is to go down, how to propel yourself even further ahead. Cool? All right. So of course, if you've experienced a breakup, I would imagine at some point in your life you've experienced some kind of breakup, unless you somehow managed to be with the right person right out the gate, which I don't think is actually probably not true for most people. So when you go through a breakup, the common pattern is, it's normal to be sad and you kind of get down. And usually what happens is when you get down is that you turn it on yourself and start the, self-analysis. So you start to criticize yourself, attack yourself, wonder, like, how could you have been so foolish? How come you didn't see this coming? What's wrong with you? All those questions. And what happens is when you start that questioning about, why were you so foolish? And how could you be so blind, whatever it might be, then you start to create a story about yourself, of course, because you want to understand, why did this happen? But usually what happens when you are in that place of something's wrong with you, you're foolish, you should have known better, all this stuff, that focus is, completely on you and what is wrong with you, how you're messed up, you're broken. This is, I would imagine for many people, when you're going through a breakup, you'll notice like this is a pattern. So when you're in that space of self, sort of criticism and self-attack, self-beration, The next normal step, unfortunately, is to engage in some sort of destructive behavior. So this could be overeating, maybe binging on sweets if that's your thing, or, fried food for some people is their thing. Or it could be, drinking a whole bottle of wine. And it could be just kind of losing yourself in social media, or, some sort of, binging on some series. And all of this, of course, is because it's so uncomfortable when you turn the lens on yourself that the natural instinct is to stop. Like, you don't want to go any further. You don't really want to explore, which is why we need coaches and mentors. And you want to just do anything possible to get away from that discomfort. So again, that's when you seek out, alcohol, food, any sort of drug, sort of risky behaviors, sort of adrenaline junkies, anything to remove yourself from that discomfort and not to deal with it, which is not helpful, of course, because it will come back, like you all know. So, and that's exactly what happens when you have the self sort of, analysis and not in a positive way, and then repeat this, destructive behavior because you don't want to actually see what's going on. Then, of course, you repeat the behavior because you all know, perhaps, or maybe you don't, but anything that we're meant to learn will continue to visit us until we finally learn it, which is why you will notice patterns in relationships and notice patterns in your business as well. So in relationships, how to break the cycle is to catch that story. What is the story that you're creating about yourself, about you being broken or wrong or stupid or foolish or desperate, like whatever it might be, or just anything that comes up, any negative thing that comes up. You want to, and this is super, super critical here, because when you're in that place of, attacking yourself, the common thing is to think that beating yourself up, that you'll learn your lesson, you'll never do it again. And of course, that's not true. So in order to change this, when you catch that story, you want to be able to hold on to it with compassion and acknowledge it and understand that you're in a place that's, experiencing a lot of discomfort and a lot of pain. And then allow yourself, this is really, really challenging, but allow yourself to be curious. Because when you run away from it, distract yourself from it, numb yourself from it, that's when you repeat that lesson. It'll come back in another form. When you're willing to sit with it, be compassionate with yourself, be curious. Like, so why is it that this pattern is coming up? Why is it that you are feeling there's something wrong with you, or you always make bad decisions when it comes to men, or whatever it might be? When you come to it from a place of, I really want to understand what's going on, as if you were talking to a friend, you wouldn't beat your friend up for being in a, bad situation. You might be, wanting something better for her or him, but you're going to be compassionate and curious with them. So you want to do the same for yourself. So ask yourself, and you might want to, give yourself some time for this, like some space for this. Because in order for you to release this, you have to get to the root. And again, this is another reason why it's so important to work with a mentor and a coach, because on our own, we don't want to go deep. We're like, oh, whatever. I learned something, but, I don't really want to understand where it came from. So when you have guidance and really going deep and getting to that understanding of where did this come from, where did this pattern take root in your life? Because it is not new. This is a pattern most times that was planted in a childhood experience about how you had to navigate, the family dynamic, whatever. It doesn't have to be that you were abused, but there's always some sort of, trauma for a child, because as a child, everything is magnified. You're trying to understand, what does it take for you to, be accepted and to be approved of and to belong. And it's going to be different for each family. And so whatever you pick up on, that is going to continue to manifest throughout your life in different relationships and in your business and in how you treat yourself, as well as, the types of food you eat, exercise that you do. So until you get to the root of it, what's happening is on default. It's in your just sort of unconscious. That's the way it is. That's the way it has to be. You have to be in protection mode. You have to be, keeping yourself safe, because that's what it takes to be, belong. And until you're willing to really get to the root of it and explore it and see where it came from it and see how it is for you, it'll just continue to repeat. Does that make sense? So, of course, this is super important to have guidance in doing this. It's not an easy or comfortable task, and it doesn't have to take a long time. You don't need years of therapy at all for this. The next step then is, once you've done that compassionate, seeking understanding, is then to shift the focus off of you. So this, it's normal when you're sad to just, the whole world revolves around you. So you want to think about, can you go out on a walk and maybe say hi to a neighbor? Can you pick up garbage in the neighborhood? Can you send a note to a friend you haven't talked to in a long time? Can you send flowers to someone? Do something to shift the focus off of you and into giving to others. At the same time, you also want to create the space for you to be in that area of exploration. And in that area of exploration, you want to build an environment that supports that. So this is the time where you need to really engage in behaviors that support you, not distract you or are destructive to you. So thinking about how you can start changing, even your environment, like bringing flowers into the house, putting up different lights, putting up pictures, buying different clothes that make you feel different, reading different books, going out and spending time in nature, spending time with people who are positive and supportive. Stop watching the news. Anything to do to support you, and because this is an amazing opportunity for growth when you choose to see it that way. Because what's happening is you're shifting to a new level instead of having to repeat this. When you shift to the new level, you start to see there's so much more available to you than you had even realized. So, how does all of this relate to business? It's really not that different. So especially when you are going through some challenges in your business, like I said, it could be that you're wanting to get to that next level and you just kind of are going like up and down, or just kind of staying at a certain level that's a level that you want to break through, and you're noticing the thoughts starting to filter towards you in not a positive way. So it's normal, of course, when you're experiencing some challenges in business, is to get down, to get a little bit discouraged, to get frustrated, to, turn the lens on yourself and begin to attack and criticize yourself, which of course then creates the story about what's possible for you and maybe what's wrong with you and that you're broken and maybe you need to do all these things that you hadn't done, whatever it is. Because of course, when you're in that place, is what's happening is your brain goes into survival and protection mode. So it's like, okay, what needs to happen to make this go away, right? So same with being in a breakup. When you're in that space of, the spotlight is on you and there's something wrong with you, the tendency is, of course, to engage in destructive habits, to like either totally disengage from your business, to, same as with a relationship breakup, maybe overdrink, overeat, whatever it might be, because again, it's really uncomfortable, especially when you're growing. It's super uncomfortable. So again, the same thing is you want to catch what the story is that you're creating about you, that you're, facing the struggle, that you're having maybe a bunch of people say no, or maybe not having people reach out, or stuck at a certain level that you just are tired of being at. Notice what the story is that you're creating about that situation. And the same thing, you're going to need, guidance and a mentor for this, is to be willing to sit in that discomfort and explore it with compassion and curiosity. Where did this come from? And go deep. How is this similar to, or this pattern that you're noticing that you're enacting, this behavior that you're enacting, where's the root of that behavior, and where is the root of the story? Because it's all a belief system that started somewhere that created the story, of course, and that, of course, is what's creating the behavior. So when you're working with a mentor in doing this and you're getting to that root, what you'll start to see is that place where you created this belief in this story also is the place that created your unique gifts. And so you can start to make that link of how that experience really shaped you and gave you a really ultimately like phenomenally powerful and unique perspective. And when you start to see that, it shifts you out of that place of something's wrong with you and you're broken to, holy cow, there's something incredible and amazing about you that you didn't even, realize. And what you'll start to notice is how it connects to your business, how it connects to your process, how it connects to the clients that you've worked with in the past, or the clients you currently have, and the clients you want to work with in the future. So in that place of, wow, there's something really amazing and powerful about, what I do and how I see the world and how I guide my clients that came from this not so good experience. And this not so good experience is what I'm reenacting right now, what you're reacting right now, and this challenge that you're having. Then you can start to shift the focus again off of you and onto your clients, onto your prospective clients, and ask yourself, what can I do to support them? Get into that place of getting busy, right? Taking action instead of letting the mind will want to keep you immobilized, will keep you in analysis paralysis, which will just make you feel worse and worse, which will, the tendency is to engage in, destructive habits, which will lead you even further down. And you'll stay stuck, or you'll stay in that place where you don't want to be longer than necessary, because you don't need to stay there. And the quicker you do this, and of course it's easier when you have guidance with, the right mentor, the quicker you can get out of it. So the next step is, as you make this shift and see yourself differently, start, getting to work and serving your clients, also shift into a place of appreciation and just even say, wow, I'm so grateful, this thing happened, because what you're doing is you're breaking new ground. You are getting out of that pattern that you had been repeating that you don't need to repeat anymore. And the next step is then to give yourself a reward, do a celebration, because every time you make different choices, you're disrupting that old pattern. You are breaking those old neural pathways and creating new neural pathways so that your brain is not going to be set in this, defensive, protective mode anymore, and instead will be into creative and growth-focused mode. So the other cool thing, and this is why it's important to really, reframe what's going on. The cool thing about facing a challenge in your business is that many times when you're in that place of like feeling frustrated and like just tired and over, you're over like feeling like you're doing all these things. So it's going to sound a little bit counterintuitive, but when you're feeling those things, the normal thing, of course, is to, think you have to go into protection mode, which might mean working more, depending on your pattern, depending on your brain wiring, or it might mean completely disengaging. So it's different for everyone. But the trick that I shared in those steps is that when you challenge that, instead of perpetuating that cycle of, yes, I need to protect myself, yes, it's important to, be in defensive mode, survival mode, when you challenge that, you can start to shift what's possible for you. And also, again, like I mentioned, shift what's going on in your brain so that it's not thinking this is a dangerous place to be. And the cool thing about being tired, sometimes this happens a lot. And this is why, like right before, sleeping or right before you wake up, you're way more creative, is that your, rational, the left brain doesn't have time to react as much when you're a little bit more tired. So your creative mind is giving you all these insights. You're more connected to your intuition. And the trick is, of course, to take action on those insights as soon as you receive an idea from your intuition. And you'll receive them much more easily when you're tired. So it's sort of this counterintuitive, pattern of you are tired and you're kind of feeling like you got nothing left. But when you have nothing left, that's when you're at the verge of a breakthrough, because you're just like, whatever, whatever. And that's when those ideas come to you. So when you can be open to that and take action on that, no matter how crazy it might seem, no matter how maybe disconnected it might seem from your business, that's when you're going to have the major breakthroughs. And this has happened to me in my business over and over and over again. Like I've had it, like maybe I've had, and I'm trying to think of specific examples, like a period of people saying no, and then I do something like totally like not connected, just talking about relationships that's not even connected to business, and I get a sale. Or another experience was a couple knows, and I did a video about, kind of the shame of investing, got a sale. So it's always like when it's almost like because a little bit of your defenses are down because you're tired and like, oh, I just can't do this anymore. That's when your logical brain is like, ugh, I can't, I'm done. And your right brain kicks in with all these amazing ideas and those ideas, when you act on them, are the ideas that will propel you even further along than the rational left brain, like do this strategy and then follow this formula and then do this script and then make sure you reach this many people and maybe talk to this many people and all that stuff that really most of the time there's no soul, no spirit, no inspiration there. So of course it's not even going to work. Versus when that hit of inspiration comes and you act on it, magic happens so many times. I would love to hear your examples too of, when kind of at the edge, done, and then breakthrough. Because that's always when, things are falling apart, it's like, it's a good thing. That's why it's like important to celebrate and give thanks and be excited. And even with relationships, is like when, a relationship is, coming to an end, when you can see, okay, this is for me, learn from it, be curious and compassionate about what the lesson is in it, let it go, see how it's going to how it shapes you and how it's going to propel you to an even more beautiful, amazing, supportive relationship. So coming from a place of gratitude versus, sort of anger and disappointment, which anger and disappointment is also, you can acknowledge and it's normal, but not hanging out in that space. Okay, so if you are wanting to break through and you're tired of being stuck at a certain level or having that experience where just it feels like doors are closing and you want, all the doors and all the windows to be open and everything, all the possibilities, available to you, and you're ready to reach that higher level of sales without all the sacrifice, I invite you to just send me a DM and we'll get on a call and I will show you exactly what needs to shift so you can have a breakthrough in sales right away. Because it's right there, I promise you, it's right there. Cool? All right. Lovely to see you all. Have a lovely afternoon, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Bye.